More funds instantly when you play $5. Win or lose, you'll get $50 in bonus credit just for playing, and that's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. You do have to be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
Well, hey there, everybody. Happy Monday to you. Welcome into another edition of Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Kester, Max Power producing. Thanks for tuning in on your way to work here on KFH. 97.5 FM, 1240 AM. Glad to have you with us. Thanks for listening live on kfhradio.com. Maybe you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate that as well. And for all those watching on the video streams, 12 News Connected, Facebook, YouTube, X, we appreciate y'all. You can all get in touch with the program. You can call Max. He'll put you through at 869-1240. You can leave us voice messages through the Odyssey app. That's always a cool way to listen to the show as well. And you can leave us video messages on the video stream or reach out to us directly on social media. It all works. It'll all get you in today. We've got Wyatt Thompson, voice of the K-State Wildcats, coming up here in just a few minutes, as we do each and every Monday, to get a recap of the weekend. The Cats back in the win column. What does it mean, and what do we need to see down the home stretch before the conference tournament begins after just a couple more games in the regular season of the college basketball season, if you can believe it. We also have 2 college basketball games tonight, a late night doubleheader. KU going down to Houston to take on the Cougs, and Wichita State going down to Denton to take on North Texas. So should be a lot of fun tonight. Busy night of college basketball. We'll get to it all, plus recap the weekend in sports. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. I know you said it's going to be fun. I wonder who it's going to be fun for. Are you saying it's going to be fun for Houston and North Texas? Because those are 2 really, really tough matchups, especially for the Jayhawks and of course, the Shockers taking on a North Texas team that is really good. And so it's going to be a challenge for both of these teams tonight.
Yeah, it is. And we'll get into KU more specifically because they played over the weekend. I think it's fun because I think we have teams capable of getting wins in those games. There were points in this season where they got no chance, right? While that feels like that was a while ago for KU, it was about 10 days ago. For Wichita State, it was about 2.5 weeks ago. It wasn't that long ago where we would have been like, no, they don't. They're not going down there to win. But now it feels, at least to me, it feels like
it's a long
go down and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, especially with Wichita State, you feel like even though they stumbled at home against UAB the other day, they've got at least the momentum to be able to challenge North Texas. They just about got the Mean Green at home inside Koch Arena a few weeks ago. So I think it's clearly going to be a challenge in both of these matchups. I'm honestly, if I had to pick which team I think is more likely to win tonight, I'd probably say Wichita State over North Texas as opposed to Kansas over Houston.
I agree, and I think that has more to do with North Texas and Houston than it does Wichita State and KU. Houston's just really stinking good this year. But we'll get into tonight's game as we look back, especially for KU, because they weren't able to get it done against Texas Tech. But just at the real bird's eye before we dig in, and then some weird stuff sort of happening after the game, it wasn't the same as when KU had that stretch in Utah, right? There were a couple of things where they made mistakes, but I never thought it was a lack of energy or effort or anything like that against Texas Tech. That was a good Texas Tech team that shot the lights out on the road. Teams don't do that a lot, and they did. So we'll get into all of that as we make our way through the combine happening all weekend long. We continue. We didn't have a ton of time last week to really dig into the end of the week for the Chiefs, which was very, very eventful and newsworthy. And then there's all kinds of little things kind of popping out there. Maybe some teams interested in the top pick overall. I know CBS Sports put out a list of offensive linemen who did well for themselves. Maybe we try to look at this. Of course, we're looking at offensive line for the Chiefs, but there's a lot of teams in the league that need to get better at offensive line. That's the other part of the challenge, I think, in trying to solve it through the draft is there are not only a lot of teams, there's a lot of really good teams that feel like they're right there, that probably feel like they're an offensive lineman away, to be perfectly honest. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. How's the weekend, Tommy? It's pretty chill weekend, I think, for the
It was
first time in a while.
it was good. It was busy. Had a lot. I mean, for us, it kind of feels like people coming out of hibernation. You get to that first weekend of March, and weather warms up somewhat. I played golf on Saturday, so that was fun. Went
I
to a
played a little golf.
Mardi Gras party on Saturday night.
Oh man,
Did that.
dude.
We went to a kid's birthday party yesterday. It was a full weekend of activities.
Yeah, I was just chasing kids' sports for us, I think. Um,
Oh, and the other thing, which you and I texted about, I took my son to the Wichita State baseball home opener on Friday. Shockers won on a walk-off home run, bottom of the ninth, down 1, 2 outs in the ninth. It was awesome. It was so cool. That was a really cool way to kick off the at least the home stretch of the season for Wichita State baseball. So that was really cool too.
Well, yeah, that's for a team that's got to get through some injuries to be able to probably really give us a true back on track, as they lost a couple yesterday. Wichita State baseball did. We kind of need we kind of need them to get healthy, so we know, because before we know it, they're going to be. I mean, they're playing conference games, Tommy, in 18 days. 18 days. So I'm glad that they got that one in the home opener, because they've got to get healthy. And then just a real quick mention to softball, who had their big home opening event, and they'd like to get some of those back too. They haven't been able to beat one of these ranked teams yet, and I don't think our expectations for them are fully in focus just yet. But they did lose one yesterday. I know they'd like to have back. So we're not quite in the full swing. It was good to get both of them back home, though. Also, I know KU played out at Riverfront this weekend, which is really cool. That's always a cool event. It's good to see Riverfront back open, or
You
what's
mean
soon to
Equity
be
Bank Park?
Equity Bank Park.
Yeah,
Now,
there you go.
I should know the answer to this. Was it Equity Bank Park on Saturday
I
already?
think it was an immediate change is
Okay.
my
I know some
understanding.
signage and stuff still has to go up. So yes, Equity Bank Park has now become active again. I mean, it's time to get that rocking and rolling as well. So as those things begin to warm up, and the weather was conducive for it, right? We get the end sort of the winter and into the postseason. I know high school basketball playoffs begin tomorrow night. So it's a wild time. It's a busy time, and let's just all hope for good weather. I don't know about you, Tommy, but I just keep checking like our Storm Team 12 app here, and we're not quite to the 10 days out from March Madness. I'm just watching the weather. Every time I'm like, come on, give us good weather. Come on, give us good weather. Right now, things look all right. Things look okay right now. But we're not quite there yet. We're still about a week away from knowing what we're going to be dealing with there.
Yeah, the Eagle. I don't know if you read this over the weekend. The Eagle, Kerry Rangers, released an article about all of the events and all of the fanfare around March Madness, which is going to be so much fun. I know that that you and I and all of our Odyssey stations, we're going to be down at the official city fan fest at NASCAR Park. We'll be broadcasting live, doing our show live Thursday and Friday of the tournament. There's going to be so many different activities down there. It's going to be a blast. And so, it'll make it a whole lot better if the weather is great. But regardless, it's going to be awesome.
Between this show and TV, be spending a lot of time down at the arena.
You better
I'm gonna
grab
need
like a sleeping bag and a tent and just
I'm gonna need
live
the
down there
weather.
for a
I'm
couple
gonna
nights.
need the weather to play along here. I don't like being cold. We were at a soccer game last night, and it was 60 degrees when it started, but really windy, and it looked like we were all out, going skiing. It was cold. We're not quite there yet. We want to be. We're not quite there yet. We got a lot coming up for you. Wyatt Thompson is going to join the show next. We'll get into K-State's weekend. They get back on track. How close are they to being able to make a run in the tournament? I think injuries will have a lot to do with it. That's what we'll hit next on Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... Oh! It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Daily Insider Interview on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor here. Wyatt Thompson joining us, voice of the Wildcats. Wyatt, welcome back in. Glad to have you here today. How are you this morning?
I'm doing really well. You know what? We won a ball game yesterday.
That's it.
I had a great big piece of coffee cake this morning with butter on top to celebrate a little bit. Got my coffee. Is it getting better than that, fellas?
That sounds really good. I don't think I've ever put butter on coffee cake, though. And now I'm highly intrigued by that.
Well, there's a reason I look the way I look. My wife's a really good baker.
Yeah.
She's coffee cake, cookies, pies, whatever. All of those things that I don't need, right?
You're looking just, you don't want that stuff to go to waste. You want her to be able to live out her passions. You're being a supportive husband. That's what you're doing.
Well, sure. I always try to be that, right or wrong.
You can't not. Why they get the win against Colorado at home? You know, good. That's what they're supposed to do. They get a couple of good tests, I think, to end the season. But I think, like, for me, you just got to keep asking the question, what's Coleman Hawkins' status? Because while I'm very glad they won against Colorado, all the at-large stuff is gone again now. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be conference tournament or bust. But I just don't think they're going to be able to do something like that without him there. So what's his status, and how likely or unlikely is it that after another week here, they can get him back?
I was a little bit encouraged at the shoot-around yesterday morning. They shot around from about 9 to 10:30, but also that included a film session. So they were on the floor about an hour, which is pretty normal, Jacob. And he didn't do much, but at least he was out there. And I think he feels like by Wednesday or next Saturday at worst, he can probably be able to go. Found out yesterday too, I guess I didn't realize we've had a couple of injuries where you don't think much about it when it happens, and then the next thing you know, you're missing a game. And Moby Ike Garuka had a hand injury in the game at UCF, and he missed yesterday. I think he could potentially be back. So, I mean, again, this is all just speculative on my part. None of the coaches have said that he'll go Wednesday or he'll go Saturday. It's just, I think he's more optimistic now. There's probably a little bit less pain with that deep knee bruise. So that's kind of where we sit today.
I felt like, Wyatt, that we've seen this progression of the way that Jerome Tang wants his team to play in the absence of Coleman Hawkins. You started off that first game without him, where he, went with the small lineup to try to get more shooters out there. That didn't really work. Then you go with more of a larger lineup. That didn't particularly work either in the second game without Hawkins. Then in the game yesterday, it was almost kind of like, you know what, let's just throw out the playbook of trying to score because we're going to have a hard time getting the ball in the bucket. Let's play gritty defense. Let's force turnovers and let's get rebounds. And that recipe seemed to work for Kansas State without Hawkins on the floor.
I would agree with most of that for sure. I think that's a really good point. Again, this team is pretty good when they really have good energy, and that they are, as an example, yesterday I thought they got back to, even without Coleman and Moby for that matter, quite a bit less, but without Coleman, of just really setting hard screens and cutting to the basket. And that was Colorado's strength. And I thought that was the key to the game. K-State took most of that away from CU. You saw, how many times did we see, as an example, David Gasson cut down the middle of the lane and Doug McDaniel find him, right? I mean, that happened quite a bit. They didn't particularly shoot the ball great, but they did enough other things well that they set themselves up to have a chance. As an example, Colorado shot just 31% in the first half. They made 9 of 21. K-State had a 20-5 advantage in points in the paint. And you do things like that, you give yourself a shot.
And Colorado, we saw against Kansas, can get after it in the paint if they need to. That's kind of one of the things that they do. But that's good. So look, outside of Hawkins' health, we've got Cincinnati coming up Wednesday. That's a road game, and then a nice home game against Iowa State. What do you think the path is? Like, if you're going into a game and saying K-State must do this to be able to beat some of these higher level opponents, again, despite have Coleman Hawkins healthy, what's the other thing you think they've got to do to be able to give themselves a chance in every game they play?
Well, I think the easy answer for Cincinnati is defense and rebound because they're really starting to click again. Like K-State, they've had kind of an up and down conference season. They've been a lot better lately, and really it's no secret as to why. They've started using both of those point guards in the starting lineup, Jizzle James, who I think everybody remembers, and Day Thomas, who's a junior college player in his second year at Cincinnati. For whatever reason, they've clicked a little bit better. Some of that is Simos Lukosius had been down a little bit. He's back. He's fine, I think, coming off the bench. He's a veteran guy. He can do that. So it hasn't disrupted what they do. And I say rebound because of their length on the inside with Bandego. I mean, he is a big dude. He can block some shots. Probably quite a bit more along than, say, the young 7'2" player at UCF that we saw last Wednesday. Bandego's been around a while. He can bang around with you and what have you. So you better do both of those. And then thirdly, it would be great to have Coleman just because of his ability to pass. I think since he's been out, people, miss his elite passing ability, and it helps everybody around him better. I think it's put a lot of pressure on Doug. Doug played well yesterday, fellas. He had 7 assists and just a couple of turnovers and a couple of 2 or 3 steals, but he was just 4 of 17. And I think part of that is we get down to, the end of shot clocks, and he's just got to kind of try to make something happen as opposed to having Coleman help, and you can play off both of those guys and their ability to pass.
David Gasson yesterday, Wyatt had 21 points, almost had a double-double in the game against Colorado. In a season where just the consistency hasn't been there overall with this squad, and it's been up and down, and we've seen long winning streaks and long losing streaks and, injuries to Coleman Hawkins and other things like that. It's been great to see a guy like David Gasson pretty much be the most consistent player on this roster all season long.
Well, I think all you have to do is look at the numbers and the scoring in particular. K-State's played 29 games. He's been in double figures in 23 of those 29. Against this type of competition, that's awfully good. And he's had foul trouble in a couple of games. He doesn't have that very often, but when he has, it's been tough for him to, get enough minutes to get into double figures. But he's also been efficient in shooting. And yeah, he's closer to the rim, and his ability to cut and dunk and all of that stuff has really helped him. I just love his energy, guys. I think we've talked about that before. He's just willed himself into becoming a better player. He's one of the when I walked into the arena yesterday morning about 8:45, he was already out there shooting, right? He and Max Jones. And I tell people all the time, you get out of this game what you put into it. And both of those guys are, that's the way Marquise was too. First guy in, last guy to leave. And it pays off for you. I'm really proud of David and the year he's put together.
So, Wyatt, let's look at the Big 12 tournament coming up. I know we're a little ahead, but if we look at this right now, it looks like there's 7 teams, depending on what we do with Baylor at 17 and 12, that are at least on the bubble or in. What do you think the chances as we go into the Big 12 tournament that, it's kind of Houston, right? Houston has separated themselves a great deal from the rest of the field. Tech and Iowa State, though, are all inside the top 10. Any chance one of these other teams, or I know, of course, there is a chance, and this is where K-State would fit. What do you think the chances are one of these other teams, one of these fringier teams, can make that sort of run through the Big 12 tournament? Is it so top-heavy that that's unlikely, or is it deep enough where that's a real possibility?
I think it's deep enough that it's a real possibility, and a couple of 2 or 3 teams come to mind. You mentioned Baylor. Baylor has what everybody describes as, quote, work to do. They have not had real good center play because of injury lately, but they're pretty good about everywhere else. Excuse me. I would give you 2 other examples of teams that had good non-conference seasons and have been solid in the league. And if they would have a good final week, and if they would do really anything in the tournament, I think you could certainly make a strong argument for West Virginia and TCU. They did have a really good non-conference season. And I think Jamie Dixon has done a lot better job than anybody is talking about in this league, in a league where when you talk about coach of the year, he's not even going to get mentioned, right? I mean, it's going to be Kelvin Sampson, or it's going to be one of those guys from those upper tier teams. And I get that, but he's done a really nice job. And think about what Darren DeVries has done without his son throughout most of this year. They too had a good non-con. And if, those two have been a little bit more inconsistent than most of the others. But even those teams in this league where you're playing 20 games with no buys, there are ups and downs. It's happened to Arizona. It's happened to Iowa State. A couple of examples because of injuries. The one that continues to stand there alone is the team that's 9-0 on the road, which boggles my mind. But that's Houston. But I think there's a chance that you could get another one in there, and I think 8 would be a good number for this league, in my opinion.
What's the best case scenario, Wyatt, in the final 2 games, as far as we're talking about seeding for the Wildcats to get in to the Big 12 tournament? I know there's that log jam kind of right in the middle of the Big 12 standings. And forgive me, I haven't had a chance to look this up. Can Kansas State climb their way out of a Tuesday game? Can they get a bye in the opening round? I'm not sure if that's still on the table or not.
Well, they can, Tommy. It's a great question and thought, but they're going to have to do a couple of different things and need a little bit of help. They need to win 2. They can't just win 1 and do it. They've got to beat Cincinnati, and they also have to beat Iowa State next Saturday. In addition to that, they need one of those other couple of teams that they're right there with to probably lose twice. That would be the real key factor. K-State does not have, as an example, the tiebreaker with a TCU, as an example. With a Baylor as an example, and they're all just, as you said, meshed right there. So yeah, it's clear that K-State has to play really well in the last week, but unfortunately, because of the way the season has played out and the way they match up with other teams in the league on the tiebreakers, that does not look favorable.
It's too early to think about brackets, but let's be real, we're thinking about our real brackets.
That's what we do, right?
I look at Houston, and you mentioned they're 9-0 on the road. Stack this Houston team up with some of these great Kelvin Sampson teams the last few years, because for the first time, we don't have like all of the same players. He kept a lot of those guys for all of those runs, and then this year sort of had to reset, and it feels like this may be his best team.
I don't disagree with that, and I'll be honest. You would have never heard me say that if we went back to November 1st at the start of the year. And the reason is I was as big a Jamal Shed fan as there was in the league last year, I think. Elite, and I mean elite leader/defender. Big time. I never dreamed at this particular point that Milos Uzan would play as well as he has in the back end of the conference race. Some of those really hard games that they have won, he was incredibly good. You can just, they showed a graphic in one of the games I was watching a while ago, the point totals for him from November, December, January, February, they just continued to climb. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's strong. He can score with either hand. He's not a selfish player. He's more of a distributor, but yet he's scoring. He's had games of 17, 18, 19 points and still doing all of the other things. And the key to that is when he does that, and you have those elite shooters like Emmanuel Sharp and LJ Cryer, and you have Johan Roberts,
and they look like a football team,
and so on and so forth. It makes them a really hard out. I mean, not only are they 9-0 on the road, they're 8-1 at home, and the game they lost was to Tech. And this just in, it's no crime to lose to Texas Tech. Those dudes are pretty good now.
They're outstanding. I
really
love Tech
are
too. The Tech, both of those teams feel like deep March teams to me. They're complete. They're versatile. I don't know how much of the Tech Kansas game you were able to watch. Tech's
I watched quite a bit of it, actually,
shooting the lights out at an absurd level. I really do like both those teams. Of course, we're Big 12 homers. I've watched a lot more of them than some of the others. So, you kind of want to see what they're capable of doing. All right, Wyatt. So you got Cincinnati coming up. You've got until Wednesday. That one will be on the road. Of course, you'll hear it here on KFH, 5:00 pregame coverage as we get the regular season wrapped up this week. We're looking forward to it. Cannot wait for the Big 12 tournament. because that's the shot there. Let's see if we can get the Cats healthy going into to those games in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, looking forward to this week. It's hard playing in Cincinnati, and they're playing better, as I mentioned. And, Iowa State's going to be a little fired up when they come in here. And they've been better, too, here lately. Their skid really correlated with Momcilovic being out, but he's back now, played really well over the weekend, shoots the ball. I think he was 4 of 7 from 3 on Saturday. So, and that'll be senior day for us. That's always a special time. So big week before the really big week when we get to Kansas City.
See if they can take their shot. Wyatt, we appreciate it.
You bet, guys. Great talking to you. Appreciate it.
There goes voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson, joining us here on Sports Daily. Man, we're almost there, Tommy, and we don't have the at-large there as it pertains to K-State. I would love for them to get Hawkins back with maybe one game of cushion. Is that too much to ask, so that they can get him back in the groove here before the before that tournament? Because I don't know, it's a long shot, but they've shown us for a long stretch this year that them healthy, they're capable of beating any of these teams. I mean, Houston, we didn't get a good look at, but
it's about getting him back in the groove, but it's also, as Wyatt talked about, the seeding in the Big 12 tournament. They've got a shot to be able to avoid playing on Tuesday night in Kansas City. And, so if they can climb somehow into the top 8 in the conference standings when it's all said and done, then, they'll be able to at least get a bye and not play until Wednesday. But I think the only way that happens, and Wyatt even talked about it, the only way that happens is you've got to win both of these games this week. And I have a hard time thinking, I guess wilder things have happened, but I have a hard time thinking that the Wildcats are going to be able to beat Iowa State on senior day without Coleman Hawkins playing in that game. So you want to get him in the groove for sure, but you also need him at least in the finale. You'd like to have him against Cincinnati too, but you need to have him against Iowa State. We'll see if he's healthy enough to do it.
And you look at what that means. Well, there's really only 2 teams that you would say are not good, right? Like 2 not good teams in the league this year. Because I know Arizona State's fallen lately, but I mean them healthy, I've seen them look good this year.
They're better than what their conference record indicates.
Absolutely. And you're looking at a Big 12, there K-State, Oklahoma State, Arizona State, and Colorado are the only teams with 15 or more losses. UCF has 14. Everybody else has 13 or fewer, right? Everybody else has a net placement that keeps them in the conversation for the postseason. So, yeah, not having to play an extra game in the Big 12 tournament becomes a big deal, because there really aren't any easy ones. If you want to call Oklahoma State and Colorado that, okay, I'll buy that. But I don't think there are any, especially on a neutral court, and the tournament could get wild. That's why I asked those questions about Houston. As good as Houston is, as good as Tech is, what are the chances one of these other teams makes it through?
It's tough, because the one thing about both Houston and Texas Tech that set them apart from every other team in the conference, those 2 teams can win on the road. That's what sets them apart.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Texas Tech, who won on the road this weekend, when we return. Sports Daily coming right back.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, Tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
what is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Hey, if you have a home construction need, Pepin Suter should be on your list of calls. Let Pepin bid that project as you're in that stage, and you'll quickly see why they were the choice for us for our kitchen and basement remodel. Their work's top-notch. Their customer service is top-notch. That's what I tell people about the most, is how good they took care of us. And even now with follow-up questions about things, they're still helping us out. They'll help you every step of the way as well. All you got to do is call Pepin at 316-573-6822, or you can go to pepinsuter.com. Go on there, check out their work. It looks fantastic. They do a great job inside, outside, whatever it is. Give them a call. Let Pepin Suter be a part of your home renovation, home construction needs. Welcome back into Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor. If you missed anything there with Wyatt Thompson as it pertains to the K-State Wildcat basketball program, you can go back and listen on the Odyssey app. We'd invite you to do that. We turn the page. Let's look at KU a little bit and what happened in that game against Texas Tech. Tommy, it was not a great first half, but it was a great basketball game to see KU get on the kind of run they're capable of getting on at home. Yes, it was good that they were at home, or I don't think they'd have been able to do that. You're not going to be able to hang with teams very often that shoot the three the way Tech shot the three in the first half, 10 of them, 10 makes on almost 42% shooting, that'll kill you most of the time. And they were down 11, but they came back and settled in defensively in the second half. And I think that was important to see, even in the loss, that they were able to come out and defensively do what they needed to do to get themselves in a position to have a chance late. And yes, there were mistakes very late in the game. Zeke Mayo had some bad ones again. But we can get into the nitty gritty of that. But I didn't have an issue with the way KU played in that game, other than they could have defended the three better, I suppose. But Tech shot the lights out on the road. I think that's a bit of a surprise for any team that's at home, but that's what happened, and they were able to get back into it. I think that part of it, at least when we think about the NCAA tournament, when we think about the Big 12 tournament, they were able to withstand something that a couple of weeks ago I think would have spiraled out of control on them.
I'm no mathematician, but it's really, really hard to win a basketball game when you're matching threes with twos. And that's ultimately what Kansas was trying to do. I mean, we all know they're going to play through Hunter Dickinson. And KJ Adams had a really good offensive game as well. So they're, both of those guys are not really outside shooting threats. I know Dickinson a little bit more than Adams is, but still, like, they were trying to match the three ball from Tech with a bunch of twos in the paint. And ultimately that didn't work out. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't just in the first half. It was throughout the entire game. Texas Tech, especially in the second half, every time they needed a clutch three, they got it. And that was wild to see. I mean, like, that was such an advantage for Texas Tech when that game got tight in the final 5 minutes or so. And at one point, Kansas took the lead, and, then it was tied, and, one possession game, back and forth, whatever. It seemed like every single time Texas Tech ran down the court and needed a clutch three-pointer, they were able to hit it. And that was the difference maker for the Red Raiders. I think what's interesting about this Kansas team is that the execution, the late game execution, leaves a lot to be desired. And it really honestly has all season long. I read this stat over the weekend after the game that the Jayhawks have lost 3 games at home this season in conference play. And in all 3 of those games, you're talking West Virginia, a 1-point loss. You're talking about the Houston game when they collapsed in the final 30 seconds and it went to overtime, and, Houston won that game ultimately. And then over the weekend against Texas Tech, all 3 of those games, you had mental mistakes and lapses in late game execution. That sort of thing doesn't happen inside Allen Fieldhouse historically, but it's happened this season. And I think that with that, it's a microcosm of what we've seen basically the entire year from the Jayhawks, where, yeah, it's not just inside Allen Fieldhouse, but the fact that it's happening inside Allen Fieldhouse in those 3 losses, and especially on Saturday against Texas Tech, just kind of sums up the way this season has gone.
Yeah, it's weird a little bit too, because in 2 of those, right? I don't remember the third, but Houston and Tech, it's kind of mistakes by Mayo late on just simple stuff, right? And I'm not sure why, and maybe this is an easy fix, why he's the one that's being put in a position to even be the point person there. That has to be DeJuan Harris. Like, unless
have a very good game either. I mean, like turnover, but and I think it's very easy. I think you can sum it up by just saying the guard play in late game situations.
I totally agree.
Is way lacking. I think it's everything.
But you can't have Mayo be, unless it's a catch and shoot, right? If you need a quick shot, fine. But that's not been the case at either time where Mayo's made his mistakes. At least I don't think, right? You were trying to protect a lead against Houston, and you put yourself in a great position on a great defensive play against Tech where they trapped and he went out of bounds. But they had plenty of time to set up the offense. That has to run through Harris, to me. And then you live or die with Harris making a turnover in those spots. And then you get the stuff that happens after the game that Bill Self feels like he needs to respond to. Mayo got threats and all the dumb things that typically happen. I mean, glad Coach Self has the back of his guy. That's ridiculous. Mayo's a hometown kid. The fact that anybody would go after him, especially, is so stupid, because he is, in a lot of ways, I think, saved their season this year and given them something they had to have that we didn't even know they had to have it. And certainly we're not expecting him to be the one that stepped up into that role. So that part's ridiculous, but it's always ridiculous. Like people on the internet are idiots. No offense if you're on the internet talking crap to to anybody, quite frankly, let alone a young person. Like, you're an idiot. So I hate that idiots get the attention that they get online, but at the same time, I get it for Bill Self, especially when it does feel like the chemistry of this team. This is what I mean, and this is what, like, I feel like the chemistry of the team in a lot of ways is back. I think they're on the same page again. Whether or not they're good enough to win these games, we'll continue to talk about. But like the ho-hum whatever of Utah, BYU, and that stretch that was sort of piling up, at least for me, like, I didn't get that sense in the Tech game at all. And so maybe that's a part of it for Bill Self. Like, maybe that's on thin ice, and you got to make sure that everybody still stays like in the right mind space to do whatever it is they're going to be capable of doing. Maybe that's a part of it, or maybe he's just sick of hearing about it, and so he comes out and he tries to get it under control. I don't know. I hate that it even had to happen, but it did, and that was a big news item yesterday that Bill Self had to get out there and say something about it. So,
I thought it was odd. I thought it was an odd statement. I read it a few different times, and and if it was directly referencing the Zeke Mayo situation, and it might very well could have been, that was only a very small portion of the statement. Like, it was very much about, like, direct the criticism towards me. I'm the head coach. But other than that, it was about the highly competitive nature of the game, and the season hasn't gone the way that they've wanted it to. And that's just uncharacteristic of Bill Self to release a statement like that, which I read it a few times and I'm like, I don't even really know what the point is of this. I don't really even know what he's trying to accomplish, what the objective is to release a statement like this. The other thing too about the Zeke Mayo thing, the only thing I'll say about it is that I guarantee you it's not anybody in the fan base, right, that's like sending these messages to Zeke Mayo. That's probably like random, no-name idiots who live in their basement that have a few bucks on the game, and they don't care. Like, they don't care about it's just, they're trolls. They're online
it
trolls.
could also, even if it is somebody in the fan base, it's a kid probably, right? That most of the time, it's like a young person that doesn't have any grasp of consequence or stupidity yet. I mean, we see it all the time. Remember when it was popular to go back through famous people's tweets, like from when they were 13 years old? Like, what are we doing here? And I don't want to draw any attention to it. That's the one part for Self. Like, that's hard. But it does. Like, if this season played out different and Kansas was still number one and all that stuff happened, Bill Self's not putting out a statement on any of that.
You're right. And I think that does speak to what you said a moment ago about maybe potentially the fragility of this team's psyche, right? And so you need to, like, apparently that's the only conclusion I could draw, that you need to have your head coach put out a statement like that to try to keep the team together, just because it is kind of thin ice and fragile and it could fall apart at any time. I'm honestly, with the chemistry, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the locker room. I'm not in the practices. I don't know. I think for me, it's less about the chemistry and more about the execution or lack thereof. The execution has just been poor, and it's been poor for both the players, and it's honestly been poor for Bill Self. Go back to the game on Saturday. They had an opportunity to call a timeout and to draw up some, like, Bill Self is the master at out of bounds plays, especially in clutch situations and crunch time. And he ended that game with a timeout still in his pocket. And I don't know why in a one possession game, you're down by 3 with the ball, with the timeout, and you're great at designing these plays, why you don't call a timeout and draw up a really good play. Like, so the execution hasn't been there from the players. I was talking to a friend of mine after the game, and I'm like, honestly, this might be the most unclutch Kansas team that I've ever seen before. Like, they need a bucket, they need a score, they kind of like pee down their leg. Like, they just don't really know exactly what to do. And that it kind of translates to Bill Self as well. Like, leaving a timeout in your back pocket and you don't use it. I think it speaks to that as well.
I think that's roster driven, because in so many years they've had the player that can create the clutch moments. Frank Mason's not on this team, right? When everything goes through Hunter Dickinson, what are you going to do, right? It's not, that doesn't help you much in the situations you just drew out. And I don't know if either they had a play set on the inbound and he was ready to call timeout if what he wanted to see out of that play wasn't there, because he still had it. But when you don't catch the inbound pass, like, it Like you can't even take a look, right? At that.
And they were gifted. They were, I mean, there was that, the call when the Tech guy was pretty. I mean, he was out of bounds, right?
And ball don't lie. That was a real ball don't lie moment.
Yeah, they didn't get the call, and then they immediately force a turnover. They get the ball back, and you're like, all right, this team has life.
Yep. And
then they turn it back over. Like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah. So and we'll have a lot of time this week to talk about it. It does, though. I think at least for me, like seeing, like they were there with Tech. Like as long as they're hanging, as long as they don't have any more of these just totally like moments, they're going to have shots in games that they play. They're going to have chances and honestly, probably every game they play, unless it's just a terrible matchup. This came up. I saw this earlier, and it is totally unrelated to this. I think it was a Kentucky fan defending Mark Pope, Kentucky's kind of struggled in their last 12 games. But listen to this, okay? UConn's record in its last 14 games, 8-6. Baylor, 4-6 in their last 10. Kansas, 5-6 in their last 11. Arkansas, 6-10 in the SEC. I think a part of what we're seeing is that and we thought about like when the sort of the changes in college basketball happened, like the talent distribution across the sport, just like this in football, I think too, is going to be greater than it ever has been. And it's more difficult right now to do what you need to do because there's more turnover. Now, KU didn't really have the roster turnover that a lot of teams do, but they did have a lot, right? They did have a lot still. And so I think what we're seeing is just like there's a struggle, I think, for a lot of places. And I don't even think it's specific to the coaches as much as it's harder to find the right mix of players in each year, right? Like you're kind of rolling the dice. I think the consistency that we had seen for so many years for so many of these programs is less likely now than it ever has been because so many players are moving around every year, whether it's through the transfer portal or as always through the draft or whatever it is. Like it's hard to get a grasp of not just yourself, but everybody around you every single year. And so when we see these coaches, these Hall of Famers with bad stretches, I don't think it's a bigger indication of anything. I think it's just like their individual moments of that year. And so Kansas, just take your shot, Tonight against Houston, we'll preview that game as we make our way through. Oh, boy, that's good. That's good. Houston's so good. We'll see if they can take their shot tonight. We're going to talk Shockers as well in hour number 2. Stick around at Sports Daily.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lives from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Hour number 2 here of Sports Daily, and we are glad to be with you on this Monday. Hey, your legend begins aboard the Disney Destiny, the all-new ship from Disney Cruise Line, sailing November of 2025. Log in and listen to KFH on Odyssey for a chance to win a trip for 4 to set sail on the Disney Destiny in this national contest. All you need to do, listen for an hour on the Odyssey app. Find out more at kfhradio.com. Tommy, it's allergy season. If you can't hear in my voice, I've got some good friends who got me on a cocktail. Since I've moved to Kansas, I never had allergies, never in my life. Move here, and I guess it's the tree pollen. I mean, there are times where it's like I have the flu. It gets so bad. So they had me on this cocktail last year, and it worked. And I think it's working because normally by now I'm already getting hammered. I always know it's coming because when I used to travel for March Madness, every time I'd get on the road, I'd just be like high as a kite from allergies, like just like absolutely out of my mind. And so I know it's about that time of year. So hopefully, but you know what? Really, I like you. I played golf. Went out to Crestview this weekend. I played 9 holes. It was pretty good. I got remember I got those new clubs you talked me into that are supposed to fix everything in my game. And I must be holding them a little bit wrong because they haven't quite done that yet.
Yeah, I didn't. I was going to ask you if it actually fixed your game.
Listen, I would have been through 9 holes. I think I was 10 over through 9. So I would tell you that if I was 20 over through 18, would that be out there? What would that be at Crestview? 92?
92, yeah.
That's about 8 strokes of improvement. Now, that's not all because of those clubs. I've been going to the range a little bit. And so, but, we're just
You've been working out too. You've been lifting the weights. You've been, bulking up.
Yeah, no, a little bit. I've been bad the last couple of weeks at that, but I'm trying. The thing is, though, like, my goals are not lofty, Tommy. I just want to be in the 80s, right? So I think we can get there. I think we can get there by the end of this golf season, back into the 80s, settle down, ready to roll.
If it makes you feel any better, I played on Saturday as well. And I a little disclaimer, I took my 4-year-old with me. And so I was multitasking and handing him all the snacks and, putting on a show on my phone that he could watch in the golf cart. It was really bad to get started. I think I shot a 49 on the front. It was awful. And then I settled down. I shot a 40 on the back, so it was okay. I ended okay. I had a birdie to end the round. It was awesome. But man, the first part of it, it was not good. So I got to get myself back into a routine.
Yeah, it's getting there. But hey, here's the deal though. We were out at Crestview. We had to play north. They had some event going on south. Course looks great. Like, it's going to look real good when everything greens up and gets the right color and does all that stuff. But it was you play more early March golf than I do, which is, almost never for me. And I think for this time of year, things looked like they were in real good shape. So get out there.
Everything looks good. It's going to be a little bit longer until things green up, but it's going to be really nice out there.
That's fine. Get out there, check it out. They got 36 holes, of course. We tell you all the time. We're both out there. You can play golf with us sometime if you'd like. I always sound better at drinking beer than playing golf, but they're both fun, and they can both happen at the same time. So get out there, check it out. We've got combine stuff. We'll talk Shockers here in just a few minutes. Tommy, let's talk Shockers now. Why don't we? They get North Texas tonight. They didn't play this weekend, so they kind of got to skip it. So they'll be, well rested. They weren't able to get it done in their last game. The streak is done, and that's okay, right? Like, again, it's sort of like, really, I feel like all three of these our teams are sort of in the same boat, maybe at different levels of it right now, but it's all kind of the same. Like, whatever happens over these games probably isn't going to impact their tournament standing much. But for all three, the body language, the energy, that stuff matters for them, whether or not we think they're going to have a shot in a couple of weeks in their conference tournament. Wichita State certainly is that. And they've been good in that department for a while now. The question is, if you can't beat UAB at home, can you go on the road and beat North Texas? I would say they can, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough tonight on national TV.
Yeah, look, they've got a big challenge in front of them. This is their, final, at least regular season game. That's a quad one opportunity. And so if this team, has postseason hope still, which I know that they do, and whether or not we're talking about winning the American Conference Tournament to get that auto bid or some other kind of postseason bid, they're going to need to have a good showing against a team like North Texas tonight. You can, if you can beat North Texas, and we've seen that this Shocker team can beat teams above them in the conference standings over the last few weeks or so, then you set yourself up, for better seeding in the conference tournament. You set yourself up for being able to take on, really good opponents to be able to move on and keep your season alive. That's going to be important tonight. Again, like you mentioned, on national TV against a North Texas team that, they've got their own postseason hopes and dreams. And so it's a big matchup for them. The good thing about where Wichita State stands right now is that even though you fell at home to UAB, I think you kind of referenced it, the vibes are still relatively high, for the Shockers. And you knew that, the last time you played this team at home, you let one slip away, but you were right there. And remember, the last time they played North Texas inside Coke Arena, that was when the Shockers were kind of in the valley. Like, they were not performing particularly well, and they let one get away. They hung with North Texas in that game. And so if you were able to hang with them when things were not good, Now that things are better for Wichita State, yeah, I don't think it's out of the question at all that they can go down to Denton and they can steal one away from North Texas.
So that was the last loss before the win streak. And it was a game that they uglied up real nice. It was also sort of the beginning of when they started to do that. Kind of coincides with Ronnie DeGray getting back, right? That final was 58-54. And they're going to need that sort of ugly, gritty, defensive energy, which has been a big part of their turnaround this season. If they want any shot, it reminds me of Memphis, right? So when they lost to Memphis, it was kind of that same thing. They only let Memphis score 61, and then they came back, and of course it goes to overtime, and I don't remember what the regulation score was, but they sort of matched that defensive energy against Memphis, and they were a little better offensively. I think your path to a win here is the same. You've got to match. Now, they're probably not going to hold North Texas to 58 again, but you got to match that sort of intensity and just bank on being better than 54 points offensively, which I certainly think is the case. I think they're a much more efficient offensive team now for a lot of reasons than they were the last time they played North Texas. So it'll be, I haven't even, people may not believe this. I haven't even looked up the line on this yet. Let's just take a look, because I want to look at this and KU here real quick as we get that queued up. So Wichita State right now, on the road at North Texas, is a 7.5-point dog. How about that? That's as big a dog. I think that's their biggest dog of the season. Tommy, I'm going to take that and go one more. What do you think have you looked at this? What do you think the KU line is at Houston tonight?
They've got to be, I might be overstating it. Are they double-digit dogs?
No, but it's close. As close as you can be.
Yeah, 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah.
Man, imagine any world before this season started where KU would be a 9.5-point dog. I probably would get in on KU.
I think I'm going to take Houston in that.
Really? I was just going to say, I think I'd take the points there. Wichita State, 7.5. Both of the lines feel just about right. Is this a night where we could get wild and take like 2 road money lines though? The last time I did that, where it was when KU blew a 60-point lead or gave up 60 points to Baylor and a half.
Baylor,
and I got the K-State leg of Iowa State on the road. By the way, K-State was on the road. Boy, that could be something special. Get money line Wichita State KU's put together, and we could be having a party here tomorrow on Sports Daily. But I think both of them are capable of winning their games. I think these are both good games tonight. I just can't believe we're to the point of the season where it's like, but we just want to see him play well. We just want to see him try hard. Can they just try hard tonight?
Yeah, I wonder, when you are looking at the American standings right now, we know that at this point, the Shockers, they're not going to get into the top 4 of the conference standings. So they're not going to get the double bye going into the conference tournament. That's not going to happen. And they're not going to fall into the bottom 4 either, right? So you're kind of in, that middle portion of the conference. And you've got, 3 more games to play where, it's going to be really, how much can they really improve their seeding in the conference tournament? So at this point, you're playing for momentum to go into making a run in the American Conference tournament. And you're not going to get a double bye. You're not locked into your place, but in your area, in your range in the standings, you're kind of there with the final 3 games in the regular season. So I think at this point, it's just like trying to find your way
get that
to
swag
be able
back.
to then get that swag back and get into the conference tournament and start getting some upsets. And this team is capable of doing that.
For sure. And I don't think the swag's gone, by the way. I think UAB is just good from the last loss. And look, they could have a 2-game losing streak. So we may not even be able to answer that question until later this week when they play teams they should absolutely beat. But again, the best version of Wichita State is good enough to beat anybody in this league. They have answered that question wholeheartedly through the non-conference and against Memphis. So I cannot wait for that game tonight. You'll hear it with us over on KYN, as you always do. All right, we're going to check in with the NFL for the first time today when we return on Sports Daily. Trade rumors, Chiefs talk. It's all coming for you as we make our way through a Monday edition.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Is the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Welcome back in, everybody. If you want to win some HTO, let's do it right now. You can get a free cup of tea, more than 26 flavors, by texting the keyword tea to the short code 20357. Weather's heating up. Iced tea's never been better. So check it out. You can enter once per day. Message and data rates apply. These coupons will be good for either Wichita location or in Derby. Again, that's tea to 20357. Good luck, everybody. Welcome back in to Sports Daily. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor here as we take you through a Monday. Tommy, the NFL Combine is providing plenty of news. There are rumors that the Jets and the Giants are interested in moving up to number 1 overall. And probably the most predictable thing ever. I still think one of the quarterbacks is going to go 1 overall. It's which one and to which team. Certainly doesn't sound like it'll be the Titans who do that. Jets, Giants, number 1 overall. I mean, I think it makes sense for both of them. Look, I don't know, but I've said it a million times. I think Shedeur is worth the shot. I don't know about Cam Ward, but I think Shedeur is worth a chance up top if you can get him. And I think both of those teams eventually are going to have to get a good young quarterback.
I mean, the more that we've had this go along, the more people have come out and said that they've got Cam Ward over Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, for sure. They've been saying that from the beginning.
It almost seems like Ward is more of the safe traditional pick, and Shedeur is the kind of guy that you maybe take a flyer on, just to see if he pans out in the NFL or not. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because you're comparing and contrasting mainly these two guys against each other because those are the quarterbacks in the draft. Like, I know that there are a handful of others that are probably going to go later in the draft, but it's these two. But even really then, are either one of these two guys a cornerstone franchise quarterback long-term for your organization? I think the jury is way still out on that. I'm not sure that I'm willing, if I'm a quarterback needy team at this point, I don't know if I'm willing to trade up for like a number 1 type pick to take a quarterback. I just don't think that that's really where I would go, the direction I would go. I would rather, at least as a stopgap, bring in a veteran if I need a quarterback for even a year and then reevaluate the quarterback prospects next season.
How's that worked out for the Jets last couple of years? You know what I mean?
Who have they aggressively been linked to? I mean,
Aaron Rodgers.
No, I'm talking about in the draft. Like, it's been.
Oh no, what I'm saying is they've tried the stopgap thing for years and years. They've tried both. I mean, they've tried through the draft with Sam Darnold and old what's his face that isn't any good that played at BYU.
Zach Wilson.
Yeah. So they went Sam Darnold. They went Zach Wilson. No. They went Aaron Rodgers. No. Like, it's just not working no matter what they do.
They've not evaluated well. They've not done that.
So,
but are you gonna then give up the farm? You already basically mortgaged your future to an extent to bring in Aaron Rodgers and his cronies, and that didn't end up working out.
Right.
Are you willing to then continue to bet the farm on Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, or would you rather bring in somebody for a year or whatever just to try to bridge that gap again and then reevaluate quarterbacks next season? I think I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I don't know what and this is the great question always in the NFL, right? What is the answer to the equation? What is the answer to the test? It's the hardest answer to find probably in all of sports, is finding quarterback in the NFL. And I think there are more good ones now than there ever have been. Like, this is as deep quarterback has ever been to me, especially with the impact all the rookies last year had on the NFL overall. But that, honestly, I think even intensifies the urgency more. If almost everybody else has at least a competent quarterback, which we haven't always been able to say, that just even more so than ever, you've got absolutely no chance if you can't find one. So if you're a team like the Jets, who has a talented young roster, what do? You could make the case for stopgap making more sense, because I think most people do still agree that they're at least moderately talented. I don't think the Giants are as talented. I think the Giants, it would make maybe a little more sense to take a swing for the fences on a quarterback up at the top. And it really, you're right. It is all about evaluation. I'm just telling you, I think Shedeur can be a good quarterback in this league. I did see something. It was Greg Cosell, who's a great football guy. He makes appearances all over the place. And I want to say I saw something that there was a correlation between quarterbacks that get sacked a bunch in college tend to get sacked a bunch in the NFL. That would not be a good sign for Shedeur Sanders. He was under siege constantly. His, though, I don't think was a product of him holding onto the ball too long. I think him was a product of he did not have a good line, and he thrived despite it. See, that's what I see from him. Like, he thrived despite a terrible line in college, always under fire, was very good, is very accurate, can move in the pocket, like all of those things. And yeah, he had Travis Hunter and Horn. He's going to have talented receivers in the NFL. So I do think, like, if I'm the Giants, I'd make that deal. But the reality is, Tommy, if you're a team that doesn't have a quarterback and you knew, let's say you knew Shedeur Sanders was going to be good, really good, worthy of that number 1 overall pick, there is not too much you can trade to go get that pick. That's the crazy thing about quarterback. Like, if Bryce Young works out, and I know that the Bears got tons and tons for that pick at the time, but if Bryce Young's trajectory continues the way it was last year toward the end of the year, that will absolutely have been worth it for the Panthers, and they do it 10 times out of 10 to make the move that they made to go get Bryce Young. There's no question. You'd give up anything in any individual draft to go make sure. If you guarantee yourself your franchise quarterback, there's not too much to give up. That's why those picks become so valuable to trade. I think it's pretty clear Tennessee doesn't evaluate either one of those quarterbacks that way, or they wouldn't.
I'm not sure that
conversation.
I'm not sure that really any team evaluates either one of these quarterbacks as the number 1 overall pick. I don't think that that's because, again, if you find, you're not wrong. If you find your franchise quarterback, then yeah, you can give up the world to go get them, and it will ultimately be worth it, right? Remember, the Chiefs traded up to 10 overall to get their franchise quarterback, and it has paid off dividends over and over and over and over again. So you're not wrong on that, but it's all contingent on whether or not that guy actually is. And as it stands right now, there aren't many people, from what I can tell, from what I'm reading and what I'm seeing, that evaluate, honestly, either Sanders or Ward as that guy. Can both of them or either of them be nice pieces in the NFL? Sure. But remember, we're not hearing about Sanders or Ward in the same vein that we heard about Caleb Williams or, in any one of these like surefire, this guy is the future of the NFL, next franchise quarterback. We're not hearing that about any of them. And so that's where you have to balance it, because desperation mode for a team who is quarterback needy, with a draft class that is thin at quarterback, with a free agent pool that is thin at quarterback, you may have to just sort of like sit on your hands and bide your time a little bit and say, we have to be discerning in evaluating this talent and not give up the farm, not give up the entire world to bring in somebody that's not going to get the job done for us, because that's going to set us even further back. I mean, to be completely honest with you, what I think what's going to end up happening with the Jets, in my opinion, I think we're going to honestly go into the 2025-2026 season, and Tyrod Taylor is going to be the starting quarterback for the Jets. Like,
that's going to mean, if they do that, though, that's going to mean they drafted a quarterback. Like, unless
but not one of the top 2 guys. Like, you're probably going to see like a Jalen Milroe or like somebody else that they're going to draft in day 2, or day 3 in the draft, and let him develop. And because let's be real. The entire reason that Aaron Glenn walked away from Aaron Rodgers is because he didn't want Rodgers in the way long term. As number 1, Glenn is trying to set a culture, and number 2 is they're trying to set up and develop their future franchise quarterback. So I do think that that's a huge part of it as well. They may very well draft a quarterback, but I don't think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward.
Yeah, it as always, it's dependent on what you think of the quarterbacks. How far off from, and I'm not going to use Cam Ward as an example because I didn't watch enough of him play. So that's me pleading ignorance here. And we'll see his pro day and we'll see all that stuff. But how far off do you think Shedeur Sanders is from Caleb Williams in their college careers? Because I think they're similar players.
I think they're pretty far off. Far off. Yeah. And here's the thing. I think that with what one thing that makes them similar is that there has been a tremendous amount of hype about both of them. But the difference with Caleb Williams, and I think we're still unclear about what the future holds for Caleb Williams entirely. But what I do think is that the hype around Caleb Williams largely was not his own circle doing it. I think the hype around him was largely the way that he was evaluated by everybody basically that has eyeballs and could look at him and say, yeah, you're going to be a future franchise quarterback. I think the vast majority of Shedeur Sanders' hype is manufactured hype. I think it's manufactured hype around who his dad is, the program that he played for. Yeah, I mean, he had some highlight reel plays. He absolutely did. And he did lead Colorado to improvement. I'm not taking anything away from him at all because of that. But I think that you can tell there's been a lot less external hype around Shedeur Sanders as there was around Caleb Williams. So I think that's where they're significantly different.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams played on much better teams than Shedeur Sanders did too.
He did?
In Colorado,
he played for USC, and USC was not good.
But they had a lot of talent there. Colorado
had a ton of talent
last year, but they were good last year, right? They were good. I'm talking about like over the entirety of their college careers. It was less about last year for me with Shedeur than 2 years ago, and just like his ability and his attitude and everything, despite what he was dealing with, to me was always off the charts. Like off the charts. And you know this, I told you 2 years ago, I thought he was going to be the first quarterback taken. Now he'll probably be the second. But I've always been in on him. So maybe it's just, that stubbornness, but I didn't see anything in that final year to sway me away from that. But, they're both sitting there and most of the time quarterbacks slide their way to the tops of these drafts. So we'll see about that. Real quick, offensive linemen, CBS Sports put out something on offensive linemen, and they kind of graded the top guys of who's rising and who's falling. I'm just looking around at their own mock draft. They've got three tackles and 5 offensive linemen going before the Chiefs would be able to take a pick. Then you go and you look at some of these tackles and the way they grade out. They grade, some of these players, and it's looking like you'd have like a swing for the fences for a dude out of North Dakota State. There's a dude out of Minnesota. So there are some fringy guys that graded really well at the combine, kind of like, and I know people don't want to hear this, Kingsley Suamataia, right? Not a school, not a traditional, like mega super powerhouse where you don't know a lot about them. And then some more predictable names on the list. I don't know how many teams need linemen desperately. If the Ravens don't bring back Ronnie Stanley, you can almost put that in pen that they'll be taking a tackle. The Cowboys, I think, are going to end up taking a tackle, and they pick at 12. So we've got the Bears. The Bears need linemen all over the place, so let's just assume they take, it's kind of Campbell. It's kind of Campbell out of LSU, and then Texas is Banks early. And the Patriots, that all feels pretty predictable to me, Tommy, because those teams have wildly desperate needs at that position. The other one that I would say keep an eye on is Cincinnati, who picks at 17 this year. I think they could probably end up with a lineman. So, I mean, you're getting down to 5th, 6th best tackle, probably going to have to reach on a player at tackle if the Chiefs end up drafting one at 31. Kind of that same scenario feels trade backy to me, like it has, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like the prospects of drafting another left tackle late in the first round or even in the second round. I don't like that, especially if you're looking at that guy potentially being, what you want to be your future left tackle. I don't like it at all. And we are in the time period now where we're starting to see some trades sprout up that obviously don't become official until next week, but still, like Deebo Samuel has been traded to the Commanders, and the Niners are taking calls on Brandon Ayuk, and I know the Jets are taking calls on Devontae Adams, and I know that's all wide receivers and everything, but trades are starting to pop up, here and there. And so it's that season where it wouldn't shock me, if we see at least like in the background some conversations going on, like we need to try to figure out something with left tackle. And the Chiefs have a first-round draft pick that maybe they don't evaluate anybody that they want to, look at. And you could potentially trade back, or you could trade that pick away and maybe try to figure out something else with left tackle.
I'm with you. I don't like the prospects of doing it there. But then it raises the question that we've asked 1,000 times. Okay, then what are you going to do? If you're not taking the lineman at 31, then what are you going to do?
I would trade the pick. I'm okay with trading the pick.
No,
away.
I don't mean what would you do at the pick. I mean, what would you do at left tackle? Like, what are you going to do then at left tackle? Trey Smith's financial contribution that they made makes it unlikely that they're going to go in free agency and get a big name. Again, I'm not saying that's the wrong decision. I'd probably make the same decision. Is it Joe Thuney as your backup plan again? No. If one of the other guys doesn't pan out?
It absolutely is not, because that was not the way that
I know. I just
for the season, and you're taking an all-pro left guard and you're moving him out of position. That's
got them into a lot of trouble in the Super Bowl. I just don't know what
we got to get that out of our heads entirely.
There's not an obvious answer.
If the Chiefs end up doing that, then things are desperately bad for them if they're starting Joe Thuney at left tackle. And I cannot imagine that Brett Veach is going to allow that to happen again.
It almost has to be. And the reason I bring all this up, Tom, is it almost has to be them trying again in like the second round, or reaching on a young player again at 31 and just which they have shown us over the years, they're very comfortable reaching on players down at the bottom of the first round. They don't have an issue doing that. They've done it a lot. So like, I think honestly, it's the most likely outcome here is that they reach on a lineman, and it's probably going to be like, if I had to make a swing in the dark guess right now, who's this Gray Zabel dude out of North Dakota State who graded really, really well, who was one of the best workouts at the combine, reaching on a dude like that?
Cool. I mean, like, I don't know anything about North Dakota State's.
No, I don't either. But I'm saying, if I had to like take a shot in the dark at what's going to happen, that's kind of where I'm leaning now, is that they reach on a player at 31.
We're talking about how a dude from North Dakota State worked out in the combine. Yeah. It's a pretty slow news day, I guess.
I just don't know what the answer is to the biggest question of their off season. Like, I don't know what else they're going to do. It's such a weird place this year. All right, we'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of. It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Hey, thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up each and every morning here on KFH. Appreciate their support of all our Odyssey stations. Welcome back in, everybody. It is a Monday. Jacob Albrock, Tommy Castor here. Tommy, Jerry Palm's bracketology has Auburn and Duke, Houston and Tennessee as the ones in this thing. Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Alabama as the twos. I want to spend a little fun time. We joking with Wyatt Thompson. We're always thinking about brackets and all of these things. So I want you to think about this for a second. Who would be your final four if we're doing this thing right now? Who are your, and I don't mean you have to look at like anybody's bracketology. Like just who do you think the four teams are? And then I want to also, while you're chewing on that for just a second, point out the fact is we get KU taking another shot at Houston last night. If you're like me and you feel like KU, I don't want to say should have beaten Houston, but they should have beaten Houston the first time they played. And you look at the way these are coming out now, it's so crazy to me to think that KU will have wins or should have had wins, right, over two of the 1 seeds, one of the 2 seeds this year, and they're in the position they're in. Just such a strange thing. And I bring this up all the time because it's like, is it the same team? Like, what has changed for them from the beginning of the year? Is it that everybody else maybe has gotten better throughout the course of the season and they've kind of stayed the same? Maybe. They just haven't really improved much from the team that has those kinds of wins early on. Or have they gotten worse? Because I'm not sure I feel like they've gotten worse than they were at any point this season. You know, they weren't getting big contributions from some of these other guys like Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr and some, like, they weren't really when they got those wins, those weren't, you know, massive pieces of the team and overall. So it's the strangest thing to think of a team. And I don't remember if there's ever been teams with that many just like insanely high quality wins. They're going to end up as a 6 or a 7 seed, most likely. It's kind of crazy.
They might be lower than that. I saw some speculation that if Kansas loses their final 2 regular season games, so if they lose against Houston tonight and they lose against Arizona over the weekend on Senior Day, and they get an early round exit in the Big 12 tournament, you could be looking at them as like a 9 seed, an 8 or 9 seed.
No chance.
I've seen, come on, real, like, you're talking about
a 9 seed?
An 8
Where
or 9
are they in
seed?
the net right now? There's no way. I got to pull this back up. They're still like in the top 30 in the net, if not higher than that. Real quick, checking. Yeah, 20. They're 20 in the net. They're not going to be a 9 seed.
Okay.
Come on. There's no way.
I mean, so you're telling me if they lose tonight and on Saturday, and let's say they lose their first game in the Big 12 tournament, you think a team that has 13 losses is going to be a 6 or 7 seed?
To West Virginia, let's call it, right? Yeah, no, I don't think they're going to be a 9 seed. 8, they're getting projected as a 6 right now. Drop 3 seeds over a course of a week. I don't see it. I could be wrong, but I don't see it. I don't think so. They're still 20 in the net because of some of the wins I just talked. Like, you got to count the wins as much as you have to count the losses. Like, they're supposed to be the same thing, right? And they have tons of good wins all over the schedule. So anyway, so before you give me your final 4, right now on Palm's bracketology, they're a 6 seed playing Oklahoma, and then they would potentially play Purdue in the second round. Again, very capable of Sweet 16. I think, all things considered, I'd be thrilled if they made the Sweet 16 this year. You know, it's 2 wins in the tournament. So I thought that was interesting as I saw the brackets and the projections of some of the teams and where they'll land and some of the wins Kansas has this year. Big opportunity for them tonight. I think they'll win their Senior Day game, by the way. All right. So, Tom, if you had to take a final 4 right now, who are your favorite 4 teams in college basketball?
I love Auburn. I mean, that's pretty easy. I mean, I think anybody would say that. I love Auburn. I love how they play against, like, the great opponents that they've got. And the SEC is loaded this year. Like, they're so good overall as a conference. And Auburn has been the main team that's been able to beat almost everybody in the SEC. So I would say Auburn, definitely. Houston, of course, with how tough they are and the way, I mean, Kelvin Sampson's one of the best to do it. And so I like them. I like Florida. And then probably my wild card team, don't count out Tom Izzo and Michigan State. And one of the reasons I mentioned,
I mean, they're 2 seeds.
One of the reasons I mentioned Michigan State is because they've also played really well against some of the top opponents in college basketball. And when you've got a Big Ten schedule, you know, like the ones that they face, I mean, you're going to, you know, be tested pretty early on. So those are probably my favorite 4 teams, you know, just because of their toughness, because of their shooting ability, and just because of the coaching overall.
Yeah, I think, look, I do think there's a large group of teams to consider this year for sure. I'll give you mine here. So I will take Duke I will not take Auburn. So I'm going to take Duke. I'm going to take Houston. I'm going to take Tennessee. And I think I'm going to take Texas Tech. I really like Tech, and don't think I'm crazy. Tech is number 7 right now in KenPom. All those teams I mentioned, by the way, none of them, nor none of the ones that you mentioned are like controversial picks. Every team we mentioned in that exercise is inside the top 10, right, of KenPom. Top 10. So there was, but doesn't it feel like there's probably any combination of teams? I'm going to call it top 10, because when you get down to after 10, you're looking at Iowa State, Missouri, Arizona, Maryland, St. John's right now in the KenPom. So I don't think I'll call it the top 15, but I'll call it the top 10. Basically, like any of the 1s or 2 seeds right now feel viable to me. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, and the reason, I mean, a big reason why I picked Florida in there is because I watched their game over the weekend where they beat A&M, and A&M's a really tough team, and Buzz Williams has them playing very tough.
Yes.
And Florida dispatched them fairly easily. I mean, it was a conference battle for sure, but man, Florida is really, really good, and so that's why I picked them. But yeah, I mean, just you could easily, and this is kind of interesting because out of the 4 that you picked, you have 1 SEC team in there, and that's Tennessee. But there are, 5 or 6 SEC teams that could easily make Final Four runs.
Totally. And what was the joke this year? But they're only 500 against each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
that was so good.
And we haven't even mentioned Alabama, and I know Alabama fell to Tennessee on Saturday, but Alabama is obviously really good too. Like there are a lot of really good teams in the SEC that are really tough.
And Bama's got a little bit of a track record here as well. Okay, so there's this weird thing, and it's from a site, it's from a handle on social called College Basketball Report, and they put this out, and I've kind of been following this year, and they claim that, and I believe them, 96% of the national champions in the last 25 years have had a top 21 KenPom offense. And 91%, Tommy, of the national champions in the last 25 years have also had a top 31 KenPom defense. So basically, 9 out of 10 times in the last 20 years, probably more like 9.5 in the last 25 years, have had a top 21 KenPom offense and a top 31 KenPom defense. As of February 24th, and I'm sure they'll put this out again, I'm going to give you the list of teams that can currently boast that, okay? So this is according to College Basketball Report. And 4 of them, Tommy, are Big 12 teams, interestingly enough. Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, and Arizona. There's only 9 of these teams across the country. Duke, Auburn, Florida, 3 of yours. So you'd have your entire Final Four fitting this criteria. Clemson and Maryland are the other 2. So as you're filling out brackets, maybe something to watch if you're looking like for teams to sort of make a run unexpectedly. Iowa State, Arizona, Clemson, Maryland would maybe be teams to take a look at based on that criteria. And again, like that criteria is pretty tried and true over 25 years on teams that make runs to a national championship. Interesting, though, to me that the Big 12 is the most represented team in there. And and before I even saw that, I've had this feeling like the Big 12, we knew this was going to be a great league, right? I don't care how it's shaken out. If your team right now that's sitting in 6th or 7th place is a team with a resume like Kansas, you're in a damn good league. And I think the Big 12 by tournament time, I'll bet you this, but let's call it Elite 8 because the Final Four gets a little trickier. I will make a bet with you right now that the Big 12 has more teams in the Elite 8 than the SEC does.
Really?
Yes.
I think I might take that bet. And it's not a knock on the Big 12. I just think the SEC is really freaking good and is like at the very top of and like even slightly underneath, like Missouri. Nobody saw Missouri being a top 25 team. And here, I mean, I know that they were upset over the weekend against Vanderbilt, but like still, like they became a top 15 team in the country all of a sudden out of nowhere in that same conference. Texas A&M and like the ones that we've already listed, like there are really, really, really tough teams in the SEC. And again, it's not a knock on the Big 12. I certainly think that the Big 12 has a really good chance because they're battle tested. A lot of teams to make pretty decent runs. This is not a Big 12 where you're going to get 10 or 11 teams in, and then they're just going to get picked off left and right early on in March Madness. I don't see that being the scenario, but I have a hard time thinking that you're going to have more Big 12 teams in the Elite Eight than SEC.
So here, and really for me, and by the way, Mizzou, according to Ken Palm, is not fool's gold. They're 12. A&M's all the way down at 22. But for me, it's kind of about what that crazy stat is of the last 25 years. My thing with it is when we combine offense and defense, that's where I love Houston. I love Texas Tech. I love the ceiling of Iowa State, although their floor has been in the mix a little too often. Kind of the same thing for Arizona. It's more about how much I love Houston and Tech's prospects in the tournament as much as anything else. In the SEC, I've always had a hard time putting Bruce Pearl teams. That's on me. Auburn's awesome in the few times that I've seen them play. But outside of Auburn, and I did say I'd put Tennessee in there, I'm not totally convinced on Florida. Great story. Alabama's always a bit of a wild card because they're so great on offense, but they give up a lot of points. And then good for Mizzou fans. There are probably a lot of them listening. I mean, I'm not taking Mizzou over Iowa State. I'm not.
They look to me like a Sweet 16 team. I mean, it's been a really good story for Missouri, and definitely, the foundation built for the Tigers, potentially for the future. They've got their coach, and that's great. They to me don't seem like a legitimate contender.
Yeah, when Iowa State plays its best game, to me, absolutely does. Iowa State's best game is really good. They're kind of like Kansas, right? We've seen their floor too much. And not nearly as much as we've seen Kansas's floor, don't get me wrong, but we've seen it too much. Whereas like Houston and Tech, their floor is almost as high as their ceiling. Like you just has either one of them, and I know Houston started like 4-3, but they're like 21-1 since. Have we in any game seen a floor be low for Tech or Houston? I mean, Kansas State almost got Tech at one point when Kansas State wouldn't.
For Tech when they had injuries that they were dealing with.
Right.
But other than that, no.
But Tech's dealing with injuries now, right? Like when they played Houston, they were missing 2 starters when they played Houston and almost got them. Wild tournament. It's going to be a blast. I think this year's tournament's going to be so much fun. It always is. Of course it is. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up. One more segment to go on Sports Daily.